Hello everyone, this is Father Hayes, and today we wanted to begin talking about the sacrament of confession. So to do that, I figured it would be neat to be doing this video in the confessional, so you can have a little familiarity of what it looks like and what I look like when you come to confession to me. So the thing that I want to talk about in this video is what confession is and what confession isn't intended to be. So to start with, to put it into a context, we're created for relationship because the one who created us, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, is relationship, is the origin and perfection of relationship. So we are created to be in relationship. What sin does is sin wounds or severs that relationship, either our relationship with God, our relationship with another person, or even our relationship with ourselves. So the sacrament of confession is also known as the sacrament of reconciliation, or to repair or restore relationship. So to give you an example, let's say you're in a relationship with someone who's very close to you, and they do something to harm that relationship. It could be they betray you, maybe they hurt you emotionally, or even maybe physically. Maybe they damage trust because they steal from you. All right? So when it comes to repairing that relationship, what your expectation should be is that that individual comes to you and they first acknowledge what they did. They take ownership of it. They are sorry, right? It doesn't repair the relationship if they're not sorry. And they ask for forgiveness. And then, of course, you would be the one to forgive them. And then they do something to make a reparation, an act of reparation to repair that relationship. So that would be the act of reconciliation. Now that's different than the person coming to you and saying, I want to talk about the full scope of our relationship. The things that I have difficulty with, or the things I'm struggling with in our relationship. It's also different for them to come and say, you know, I had this situation when I was younger and it triggered me and that's why I did the things I did. That's an important conversation to have, but it's a different conversation than the conversation to repair the relationship, to reconcile the relationship. It may go toward deeper healing and growth in the relationship, but we're focusing on the distinction between that act of reparation, that act of reconciliation, of repairing and restoring the relationship, and then those other conversations that would deepen the relationship. All right. So in the case of when we sin and we come to confession, confession is intended to be that moment where we ask God to reconcile us to himself, where we take ownership for what we've done, we acknowledge what we've done, we come with sorrow, whether it's perfect contrition or more likely an imperfect contrition, right? But it's still contrition, and we have a desire to not do that sin again. That's different than saying, Father, I need to talk to you about my relationship with God. It's kind of dry, I feel difficulty when I'm praying. That's spiritual direction, and I'd be happy to meet with you. I meet with people all the time for spiritual direction. The priest here would be happy to help you with that. But that's a different conversation than the sacrament of reconciliation. Or to come in and say, you know, I'm just struggling with a relationship with my father, my mother, my brother, my sister, my husband, my wife, my friend, my coworker. That's an important conversation to have, but that also is a different conversation than confession. That's another form of spiritual direction maybe, but also counseling. And the other thing is when we come in, we don't want to say, Father, I'm just not feeling like I'm being the best person I could be. That's not an act of repairing a relationship because of a specific wound to that relationship. That's another example of counseling. Now again, I would be happy to meet with people to do spiritual direction, to do some degree of counseling. I'm not a trained therapist, but I play one on TV sometimes. But the point is that I want to make in this video is there's a very specific purpose for the sacrament of confession, the sacrament of reconciliation, and that is to address the specific wound to the relationship we have with God, with another person, and with ourselves. That specific sin that we commit or repeatedly commit. Then, to go deeper into maybe why we struggle with a particular sin, or where we are in our relationship with God, or our relationship with a family member, or a friend, or a coworker, those are relationships that can be taken into spiritual direction or in counseling. So I hope you find this helpful in clarifying. This is our first of hopefully a series of videos that we'll be doing on the sacrament of confession, sacrament of reconciliation, because the more you are familiar with the sacrament, the more fruit that you can get from it. God bless you.